Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales and special guests.
Hey everybody, Randy Hills right along ringside, all ready to go with another Tuesday night of Talking Memphis Wrestling. It is May the 23rd, anyone. Wayne's World, Greg Wayne, my buddy, won by being the first person in the room. He says he loves this show, and I love me some Wayne's World as well. Brooks, my man Tullis, Mobile, Alabama these days. He's in the house as well. And PJ, our friend from way over the pond in Thailand, Jerry Lawler's number one fan, is in the house, and we appreciate it as we're letting people roll into the ring. It came rolling into Memphis, TWA. Tell all the ladies, oh, Handsome is on his way. Brooks is in here, PJ in here, Rod, my man Rod, what is going on with you? Jeff, Frog Wheeler is in the house, and now we are up to date with greeting everybody for Talking Memphis Wrestling as Michael Clark is in the house with a smiley face, and I'm smiling back in real time, saying hello to you big time. And my brother from another mother, I think he's also a brother, but he's a brother-in-law because he's married to my friend Diane West. More later on Randy and Diane West in a segment on the happy days of Memphis Wrestling. We'll talk about that. My friend Diane, Eddie Marlin's daughter, she always calls me her brother. Randy West calls me the brother. We're brothers, we're tight, and we're ready to go with this program. Dillard Cunningham from Louisville, Kentucky is in the house. Hey, Dillard, hope you're doing good. We're going to do first take to get started, and the person we're going to do first take with is the first person in the room, and that's my buddy, the head financial advisor of Talking Memphis Wrestling, businessman from Alabama, great historian of everything from the Civil War to all kinds of wars. He's had a very interesting few days last week that he was touring around. He's here tonight on Talking Memphis Wrestling on a jam-packed show. So, Pat, I want to welcome you. Let you do your first take, and then we will do my first take, and then hopefully by then Michael St. John is in the house. And let me may add before you talk, our producer is not in master control, but he is producing there where he's at, that I'm not going to say where he's at. But anyway, there you go. There you go. Pat Trammell, first take.
Well, good to see everybody. I missed last week, and hello, Randy and Frog and PJ and everybody else. It is great to be back. I was thinking about a first take, and I'm not a tremendously huge NBA fan anymore, but I'm thinking about the Los Angeles Lakers, and specifically LeBron James, one of the absolute greatest of all time in anybody's book, but who just got swept 4-0.
Yes.
Which, tells me, as my grandfather used to say, the sun doesn't shine on the same dog's ass every day. So we all have our hard times, and we all work hard for some good times, and this is one of the good times of my week. So I'm happy to be back.
I am happy you're back as well. And my screen is kind of pulled up on the left side. If Michael St. John enters the fray, Adam, if you will let me know that. I scrolled up and he is not here. And we have a big show. We did the dark side of Memphis Wrestling. We did the dark side of pro wrestling. If we have time remaining in this show, we will certainly do that, and we'll continue. This might be a 3 or 4 week series because we have a lot going on. Pat, till Martin Michael up, did his first take. I'll hold up on my first take, but we will bring in one of the feature stars of the feature star, the man, broadcasting legend, and his first take of the day. I never know. It was interesting because we talked about some god awful jerseys. God awful jerseys last week on First Take. Let's welcome Michael St. John. Hey, Michael. What's
Hi,
your first?
Randy. Hi,
What's
Pat. How are you? Oh man, they looked worse on the field than they did in the studio. It was terrible. Oh, but I'm off my Jersey rant right now. You know, I will tell you this though: a lot of people are graduating right now. They're graduating from college. They're graduating from high school, and a lot of people will attend college if they're coming out of high school. A lot of college kids will go on to graduate school and other things like that. But a lot of people are coming into our workforce right now. And I think we have to stop and reflect and see where the next generation of our society is going. And in America today, it is a world that's a lot different than certainly when I came out of high school and college, and certainly when you did, Pat, or when you did, Randy, and I'm sure with all of our viewers and listeners as well. But I think we have to stop and think that sometimes we sort of have to realize that today's generation is a lot different than our generation, and they're not going to become our generation, and we're not going to become their generation. So with that in mind, I think it's a time that we have to reflect on being a society, being a people, being folks that are acceptable of people. I love the quote by Garth Brooks. In fact, I think somebody else said it, but I think Garth Brooks stole it. But I love the quote, there's only one race, and that's the human race. And I think we have to stop and think and reflect. And now that we've got all these young people that are now coming into our workforce, we have to sort of give them some understanding and some patience and to bring them along. And trust me, I have a feeling that just like when I got to be my dad's age, when you guys got to be your parents' age, when they get to be our age, they're probably going to be thinking and doing the same thing about that next generation that's coming out. So I think we have to be tolerant, and I have to think we all need to realize that we are of one race, and that is the human race. And hey, loving each other does a lot of good for everybody.
Very good, Michael St. John. And my first take of the day is going to be more a balance between shooting out information and also a rant or two. And I'm going to warn Michael and Pat, I'm not too worried about your response to this at all. I think you will lay it right at us quickly. Michael, the subject that I will evolve this into will get you into, it could be an hour dadgum response, because this will fire you up, because it affects your livelihood, it affects what you do for a living, and I will be shocked and upset if you don't have strong opinions, and I'll work myself into that. I just want to say hello, everybody. With Scott's Art, stand by, Scott. You will be a guest on this show next week, and we will talk about your great comic book that I'm putting up on the screen now, Mayhem in Memphis. You need to pick this book up, people. You can scan that code right now, $14.99. Great artwork by Scott Middleton. Right there, Mayhem in Memphis. This is the back cover, and there's just comics, cool comics through this thing. We will throughout the show, and we will have Scott talking about that next week, about 25 minutes into the show. But if you want to get the book now, all you have to do is scan that code, and Adam will have that up there several times in the show. So Scott is here, Willie D is here, Stuart Elwood, also Rod W. Paul Neighbor says hi to Michael. So does Brooks. So does Randy Dandy, Randy West. So does Al Tuttle. So does PJ. So does Frank Seaton. So a lot of people saying hello today, and we have a active show. Now, Pat and Michael, are you ready? Are you ready for the RH first take? Are you ready for a first take, people, that's going to get into a rant? And one of it is involved from, I won't even tell you because I want Michael to react to what I say. This will be a dynamic first take, and a first take that could take the whole show, believe it or not. But we have videos and we have pictures, and I'm not going to let it do that. But we may have to delay the dark side of Memphis wrestling if it comes to that. And I will tell you what's going on, folks. I noticed a few names that I hadn't seen before, and I'm going to ask for everybody for a favor. I am proud of this show. Michael St. John is proud of this show. Pat Trammell's proud of this show. Also, Adam Dunn, the producer, is proud of this show. We want it to be the best Memphis wrestling theme show out there as far as quality of the panel and the guest and the host and the producers of the information of everything. We want it to be the best looking show. And I'm not talking about Pat, Randy, and Michael. I'm talking about production wise, and Adam does that for us. We started this show 4 years ago. It started on Twitter as Talking Memphis Wrestling. I was the only one on screen. We couldn't play video. And when we had guests, I think Pat joined us first, and then Michael came on. Later on, Chris Ellis came on, and it was a very good show. Then we had different platforms where we could also stream from different platforms. Like this is called Restream, and we stream on the Randy House Facebook, the Power Pro Facebook, the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame Facebook, also on RB Hales at Twitter, on the Twitch, on the Randy Hales YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Randy Hales, where the archives of this show is. And we are live on Tuesdays on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. We are proud of this show. But what is this show? You know, some people call it a podcast. Some people call it a video cast. I call it a Memphis Wrestling Talk Show. We have video, we have audio, we have banter, we have planned format, planned segments every week. It is geared toward the Memphis wrestling fans. And that fan base, if they could do me a favor, would be the fact that you guys are my sales force. You guys are the one that share the show. I know Paul Neighbors has shared it recently, and a lot of you guys do. And I certainly think as we are at year number 4, this is the best as far as the panel, as far as the content, as far as the video, as far as the look, it's ever been. Some podcasts, and this is what I'll get Michael St. John's take on in a few minutes. Man, I'm proud of this show. I'm proud of this show, and I don't want to stop now. I want this show to build and build and build, and everybody can help us. Help us by sharing. Help us by spreading the word. Let's make it greater and great. Let's make it bigger than big. That's what we want to do with Talking Memphis Wrestling. And we certainly think we're the most professional produced and most professional laid out show there is. And we want to make it nothing but better, bigger, and better. And that is our goal. Now, I want to throw in some things, and I'm going to be careful with what I have to say, because it is true. Michael St. John, you went to school to be a broadcaster, correct?
No, I went to school and got into broadcasting, but I went to school to get a degree, and I got a degree in psychology. So it fit very well in broadcasting, but I got into broadcasting actually before I ever went to college, but people do go to school, and there are some very good schools for broadcasting.
Now, let me ask you this question. Quick answer. But when you got into radio from the small station level, I would assume, did you have mentors? Yes or no?
Absolutely, yes.
Since the 40, 50 years you've been in radio, and how many years it's been?
50 going on 54.
54 years of being in radio. How many people do you think you mentored over the years?
That I mentored? A couple
Yes.
of dozen, maybe. If I'm being honest, people that I've stayed close to and helped them grow as their career grew, probably a half a dozen.
It's so important to that. It's absolutely so important. Apparently, there's something going on, and if Adam could send me a private message on our panel page here, and apparently Rod and other people's mad about Joey, and I don't see Joey saying anything. So, Adam,
He got apparently got upset because we were taking a while of getting into the program, and he said he was gone. So that's what I saw.
Well, bye-bye, Joey.
That was
Bye-bye,
what was
Joey.
posted.
And this is the way we start this show every week. Every week, as we have a chemistry of this I plus. Let me ask you, Joey, how much freaking money do you pay to watch this show? I would think not a damn dollar. You probably don't have a damn dollar. I'm cussing somebody that's not even here anymore. Anyway.
Can I make a point, Randy? How long
Yes.
do you wait till you see wrestling on Monday Night Raw?
How often do I?
No, I said
sometimes it's 30 minutes.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's 30 minutes. That's my show, and we're going to do what we want to do. So here's what I want to ask my friend Michael St. John. Everybody can be a podcaster. Everybody can come out and host a video show. Now, there's recent podcasts I've done a great job, a fantastic job. I love it. They're also switching and doing video problems. I have a issue with what they're saying. The name of one of their programs are on the video casting. They're calling it Talking Memphis Wrestling. That's my gimmick, people. Also, they did a graphic that says Monday Night Memories. Whose gimmick is that, Michael St. John? Who was the inventor of that?
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You got that one locked up too, buddy.
And what I want you to get in a rant to as a lifelong radio guy, and you made a post, and I forgot exactly what it was about. It was replying to one of your colleagues and about radio evolving and needing to evolve. Write down, my point is, everybody can do a podcast. You don't need the FCC license. Even though I try not to, I do sometimes. I can say the F word and not get in any trouble about the F word. You do that on a major radio station, you'll lose your license. Just real quickly on this rant, everybody being able to broadcast what's the positive about it and what's the negative about it, and how does that affect your and our industry?
That's a big question, Randy. But let me say this: number one, I think the FCC is, and the FCC was founded in 1934, so we're almost 100 years old with the FCC. But I think their use and the fact that we need them anymore, are becoming obsolete. And they're becoming obsolete because of what you're just talking about, that anybody can be a broadcaster, anybody can turn on a video camera and go online on any platform and do what they do. But as far as what you're talking about, I personally think that anybody that copies what you're doing is flattery. And I say that not tongue in cheek, but I've had a bunch of things that I've come up with in broadcasting that went around the world. And one of which was the slogan back in the 80s. Mark Chase and I one day were just goofing around, and he wanted to put a sweeper on the air, wanted to put a promo on the air that said, "Rip the knob off." And I said, "Okay, tune in the station, rip the knob off." And I said, we got to have some juice to it. I said, it needs to be lock it in and rip the knob off. And then we had Ernie Anderson, who was the voice of the Love Boat, do that line for us. And he was one of our station voices, and he did that line. And we put it on Y107 in Nashville. And within 6 months, it was everywhere. It was on Kiss in Los Angeles. It was on C100 in New York. It was on Y100 in Miami. Everybody was using the line. And I thought it was flattery. I mean, no offense about it, but I thought it was flattery. Now, for what you're saying and what we're doing here in a video cast is a little bit different than that, because especially on the podcasts that are looking back at historical events, which is sort of kind of what Memphis Wrestling, what our show is all about, talking Memphis Wrestling. We talk about Memphis Wrestling, but we bring it up into the common denominator, which is today. And I think a lot of people are using the same the same library of video, the same library of audio or whatever to do podcasts, whether it be about Memphis Wrestling, whether it be about baseball, football, basketball, you name the topic, and they're using it. So I don't think there's any way to stop it. The Pandora has escaped the box, as we say. And the FCC, in their infinite wisdom, decided they weren't going to step in on any kind of broadcast or anything that was on social media. And social media, of course, is free form. There are no rules. I mean, despite what Twitter says, and despite what YouTube says, and despite what the people that have copyrights say, it's sort of free form. It's the wild west out there when it comes to broadcast and podcast and talk shows. So is it something we can stop and we can't put Pandora back in the box, but I do think there should be a rule of standards, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on whatever platform, TikTok or whatever, that there's certain things that you just don't do out of courtesy to society. And I think that's where the podcast world and a lot of what you see on the internet has run off the rails.
Pat, real quick, your thoughts on this subject?
You know, I think, and we talked earlier about it. It's a little bit frustrating because it's so blatant. But you know, I'm comfortable primarily due to Adam and you and Michael, more so than anything I've ever done, and for Chris, for the quality of what we do. And I think the real Memphis wrestling fans that watch us every week and listen to your great historic insight and Michael's takes, and I just am kind of along for the ride, which is fine. I don't, but I think our show is going to continue to grow, and our friends here give me the best 2 hours of my week each and every week, and I don't care what anybody else does. I know what a great group of friends we have here, and I know the quality of the show that you and Adam produce, and the insight of Michael, and I'm just excited for our future.
I am going to do a rant. Then after the rant, we'll get into the pictures of the day. Then we'll get into the videos of the day. Then we'll get into the subject matter if we have any time, because this show, just like last week, we're not going over 2 hours. At 9 o'clock Central, we're out of here. Now, Michael, let's put just me and Michael up in the screen so I can see a bigger shot of his thought. Michael, do you remember the program we did last week, the photos of the day segment, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Do you remember me showing the picture of Jerry Lawler from a recent situation with Bill Dundee, yes, and with Rex Luthor? Do you remember that picture?
Absolutely.
During that comment, when we got out of that comment, you had the simple question, is Bill still having hiccups? Do you remember that?
Yes, absolutely.
besides answering quickly, yes, he does, we did not give any personal information, any speculation, nothing negative, no knocks at all of Bill Dundee at all. Correct?
No, absolutely not.
Well, last Saturday afternoon, Bill Dundee's wife, girlfriend, I think they're married now, called me, and somebody, and I'm not going to, I know who it was. And if they're watching this show, I don't like freaking stooges because we didn't say anything to badmouth at all Bill Dundee. I love Bill Dundee, been always loyal to Bill Dundee, and I don't like somebody calling and saying I said something out of school. No, but not somebody I'm a mark for, somebody that I'm a fucking friend of, and you stooge and you call and you stir up freaking trouble by calling Dundee's wife, and probably if he hears this thing, getting him all stirred up, getting me a negative conversation, all while I'm saying I love Bill Dundee. And I'm saying, well, all while this is all about, because we didn't knock anybody. We do on our show, and I guess I am now. At times we do knock people. This is a show of opinions. So my show, I have opinions. My guest and Michael St. John, I want him to have opinions. I want Chris and Pat to have opinions. But to say and to apply that I am talking out of school about Bill Dundee, my hero, a guy I've known since 1975, I wasn't doing it. So I'm here to tell whatever stooge was that called up to stir the shit up. I don't like you because I think I know who you were, who you are. I've never fucking liked you. I never will, because there's hangers on about the wrestling business that don't respect the wrestling business and don't respect the people that's in it. So that person that made that phone call shows no respect for me, shows no respect for anybody else, no respect for Michael St. John that asked a simple freaking question. People like that, I have no use to it. We're going to get into the meat of the show, but real quick, first take on my rant. How was that for a freaking rant?
That may have been your best rant ever, to be honest with you, because there's no basis to it. Let me say this. Bill Dundee has been a friend of mine, a neighbor of mine. We lived a few houses away in Hendersonville. There is no finer person, nobody that I care for more in this wrestling business than superstar Bill Dundee. And that's the honest to God's truth. And the reason I posed that question, Randy, is I'm concerned about him. But I'd also found out, and I didn't get into it, but you know who has that same situation right now with the chronic hiccuping?
Who's that?
Bo Jackson.
Is that
Bo
right?
Jackson.
Interesting.
And he's had it for over a year. He's had treatment at the Mayo Clinic. He's been to he's been to a clinic in I think they said Atlanta. He went online and talked about it. He went on his social media and talked about it. Bo Jackson, one of the greatest human athletes of our generation, and Bill Dundee, one of the greatest wrestlers of our generation. So there was no, on my part, I can assure you there was no, I would never knock Bill Dundee. Bill Dundee can call me every name in the book and I still won't knock him because A, I respect him, 2, I like him, and 3, he's a friend. And by the way, if he's having some issues that I could help him with, or I might find somebody or know somebody that could help him with, I'd be the first to jump on that wagon.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. We're going to show some pictures and then quick responses. We'll start with Pat. We're going to go back. The oldest picture I have of me, folks, the oldest picture. This is Randy in a bowl. Let's take a look at the picture. Isn't that cute? I was taken by my. How old do I look there, guys?
6 months, maybe.
That's a 3-month-old Randy Hales, I bet.
My mother had taken me on Main Street in Jonesboro to a place where my aunt was a manager. It was Pearl and Lowenstein Jewelry Shop, and they had this punch bowl there to sell, and they put me in it. I don't look real happy about that at all. Absolutely at all. So starting
Love the
with
hat.
you, starting with you, Pat. What's your quick thoughts about that picture as we lose that shot right now? I can stand so much I can stand, and then it has to go. Pat.
You look so innocent and rant free at that point. That's what I'd say. Who
Oh,
knew? Who knew 50 years later you'd be cutting promos left and right?
How about you, Michael? How's that picture?
Randy in a bowl. I love that. That is fabulous. That's a great picture. I'll tell you, that's parents. I love parents and grandparents because they do silly things like that we look back on later in life and go, oh my God, why did they do that? I got one, and I'm not going to show it on this show, but I was a year old sitting on my little commode potty seat, and it wasn't even a toilet seat. It was one of those little bowls that little kids used to do their business in. And my mother took a picture of me sitting on it, and it will not see the light of day. I've got it, but it ain't going to see the light of day. But God bless our parents and grandparents for embarrassing the heck out of us when we didn't know any different.
Very good. So we want to go with picture number 2. This picture number 2 is a shot of one of the first pictures I ever sold as a 10-year-old, and I love this picture. And I am at Jerry Lawler's Hall of Fame Bar and Grill in this picture, and I am showing this picture that we had taped to one of the sidebars here, and you see a picture. Jerry Jarrett, as many pictures as was sold of this, owed me royalties. I used to rib him and joke with him. You owe me some money. Now, you see on the left corner a 13 or 14-year-old Randy Hills, because besides selling pictures, one of my jobs was to go to the ring for every ring announcement. This is before I started ring announcing. I would get the wrestlers' jackets and I would take it back. I would knock on the wrestling dressing room doors. Later on, I didn't have to knock, but by then I'd knock on the door. Whoever, whether it's Eddie Marlin or Dundee or whoever, takes a jacket, and I go about my business. So, Pat, that is the earliest picture, even though I would later have more important jobs. And you see that picture beside the Jarrett Randy picture of Eddie Marlin and Tommy Gilbert. And I really like that picture as well. And I sold a lot of that. Pat, I don't know if you saw ever before in your life the picture of Jerry Jarrett with me in the background. What's your thoughts as we
I
move the
never
picture
have.
now?
Well, I'm curious about the financial arrangement. How did selling the pictures work? Were you on a commission?
Sold the pictures for 50 cents a picture. I would get 10%, which would be 5 cents a picture.
All right, all
Yes.
right. Budding
First,
entrepreneur. Paul
without a
Neighbors has that picture, Randy.
do what now?
Paul Neighbors has that picture.
All right.
It'll be on eBay tomorrow. Oh, Lord. I think we lost Randy, but that's a great picture. This is a great, great, great picture. And, the thing I see in that, Pat, I'm wondering how old Jerry Jarrett is in that picture, because he
I
had
was
gained a
doing the
little
math
weight at that
myself.
time. Yeah. He looks like he gained a little weight at that time, but that's a great picture. I'll tell you. I
Yeah,
like this segment. I really do.
yeah, I do too.
Do you remember back on live studio wrestling from the studios of Channel 42 in Birmingham, when Sterling Brewer, they would have an art card on an easel, and on that easel, he would have Nick would come out and stand with Sterling, and they'd have pictures of the wrestlers that are coming up in the matches, and they would be the portrait shots, that they used to call them, of the wrestlers. And one of
Yeah,
my
like
favorites,
this. Yeah,
yes. And one of my favorites used to be Jackie Fargo was in a like a Western kind of jacket, and he had his hands on his hip, and he was poked that chest out. And that is my favorite ever wrestling picture, I think, of any wrestler ever, of the fabulous Jackie Fargo. And I know he sold a ton. I know even when I was working with them, and he would come to town for Nick back in the late 70s, early 80s, people would still buy the heck out of that picture because it was Fargo, and it was total Fargo. And
I would love to try to find that.
There's some great, I'd love to see if Randy or some of our viewers and watchers and listeners might have some of those old portrait pictures. I mean, they had the Corsicans. I remember there was one with the tag teams, and they're standing like, and the Von Brauners with Saul Weingroff. That's another one you see a lot of, with Carl and Kurt Von Brauner standing up, and Saul is sitting on the stool with his cane.
I remember that.
Great publicity pictures back then. Awesome publicity pictures. A lot of what you see the wrestlers sell now are action shots that people, even like Jimmy Cornette, that's how he got into the business, taking them at ringside. You buy the action shots from the wrestlers' gimmick tables, as they're called. But the fact of the matter is, I would love to see some of those old black and whites shot in the studio of all those great wrestlers.
I've told this story before, but about 3 or 4 years ago, I was driving down, and the road. It's not Hillsborough Road, but maybe Hillsborough Road turns into it. But I drove by Lynn Rossi's health food store.
Franklin Road.
Yeah, Franklin Road.
Yes.
And I pulled over and walked in, and he was there, and introduced myself, and he was just incredibly gracious, obviously, and I spent most of the afternoon with him. But he had one of those pictures where he was, like this with his chin out, and I've always thought I would love to have had a copy of that, and I wish I'd have saw if he had another one and got him to sign it. That was a special treat for me that day to be with him.
I see where Scott's Art says he buys a lot of those pictures, and hopefully when he comes on the air with us, can show some of those, because they're from basically the 60s, 70s, maybe early 80s, but there are some great publicity shots. Randy, there's one of the tag team. In fact, I've got it put up somewhere, of Jim White and Jerry Lawler with Sam Bass.
Yes, I have
one of those shots.
I have that as well. And Rod, to respond to you said, welcome back. I didn't really go away. I guess I got carried away, and my probably slobbered, to be quite honest with you, on my camera. And Adam kicked me off the air. He flat out kicked me off the air. Now, I could have put myself back on, but he was telling me to wipe it with my finger. And then he told me to go get a paper towel and that sort of thing. I want to switch gears a little bit and change pictures. And Paul Neighbor mentioned this earlier. Certainly, we lost on this day, on May the 23rd, 1999, Owen Hart. And we're going to show that picture. And one of the biggest tragedies in the history of professional wrestling, Owen Hart. Prayers out to the Hart family. A tragic accident in 1999 in Kansas City. One of the most devastating, saddest thing there's ever been. So real quick, we're going to take enough to ring the bell 10 times. We're going to take 10 seconds off, a moment of silence in remembrance of Owen Hart, who lost his life on May the 23rd, 1999 at age 34. The moment of silence starts now. Okay, very good. We remember Owen Hart. Earlier in the show, I talked about Scott's Art, Scott Middleton, that will be our guest about 20 minutes into the program next week. And I want to show you, I can show it right now, but we have stuff uploaded. I want to show you the front of There's the way to order the book. It's a great comic. It's fantastic. Check it out. All you have to do is to scan it. In the graphic section, Adam, I have the front cover and the back cover, if we can show both of those right away. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Scott Middleton has this Mayhem in Memphis. Now, there's a couple of Mayhem in Memphis up there. You see the front cover, and now you see the back cover. This is a unbelievable work of art. You got to get it. Scan that barcode, and again, we will show it several more times in the show. There's no doubt about it at all. What do you think about so far? I know you, Pat, you just see it from the distance. What do you think about what we've seen so far about our friend Scott's arts book?
I've tried to take a picture with my phone, but I can't because I'm on a very, very small. But I'm absolutely, that's going in my collection. Matter of fact, multiple volumes of that are going, because I'm going to gift those to my friends and neighbors that love Memphis wrestling.
Adam, your thought, and certainly we encourage everybody and look forward to getting Scott on next week, and we will kind of get away from what we normally do on the show, but we'll have a great talk after we do the photo of the day and the video of the day that we hadn't got to yet. But your thoughts on that, and do you look forward to that conversation next week?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great conversation next week. Look forward to it. I've got or a couple of mutual friends with Scott, so I've seen his work in the past, and taking a look at what we got here on screen today. You know, it's always neat when you have someone that can do some good artwork like that. So I look forward to seeing him on the show next week with us right here on Talking Memphis Wrestling.
Michael, your thoughts?
Where's Scott from?
Louisville, I think. Is that right, Adam?
Yeah, I believe so. Definitely definitely Kentucky. I'm pretty sure it's Louisville area. Let me look and see if he has responded to say. But yeah,
I was wondering.
Yeah.
I was wondering if he did any of the artwork for Jimmy Cornette, because I know they use a lot of artwork on their promoting their podcast on their different platforms. But that art, I blew it up. I took a picture of it on my phone, and I blew it up while we were showing it full screen a minute ago. I mean, the detail in that is absolutely tremendous. And he's on those headshots of the different wrestlers around Jerry Lawler. I mean, he's spot on with it. Scott, great job, buddy. Great job. Bullitt County.
I want to say, Randy, is that guy's name Travis Heckel? Is that the guy's name that does the stuff for Cornette?
Yeah,
it is.
Travis Heckel is the one that does that artwork. And I think my man Scott did some artwork in the past on Pat, your buddy, my enemy, Scott Bowden. I think Scott did some work for him as well. Scott from Louisville.
He says he's from Bullitt County. Some of the best bourbon in America is made in Bullitt County. Ain't that right, Pat?
That's right. Absolutely.
Michael, you're looking forward to our talk with Scott next week.
Absolutely. It's a great idea. I'm glad we're having a guest and Scott. That's awesome. We can talk about not only the comic book, we'll talk about, I'm sure, how he got into it, but I'm telling you, those caricatures, those facial shots of the wrestlers on that back cover are incredible.
Absolutely incredible. Right now, we're going to switch to the videos of the week. We got 2 videos. We might split it up a little bit. First one, then wait a little bit and do the second one. And I think I will do that. The video that I'll call for, Adam, because I have one video on the left side, one video on the right side. We'll go with the video in the left side. And we're going to go back to the year of 1995. It was Monday Night Memories #2. I think you'll really enjoy this because it's a quick little clip, but it's very good because it was the induction speech to the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame on Memphis Memories 2 on a Saturday night in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm not even going to tell you who the inductee is. We just want to go ahead and watch this video right now.
I thank you all so very much. You know, professional wrestling brought me Hall of Fame, and I'm very proud to have lived my life as a professional wrestler. Very lucky human being to have a wonderful.
The often
Starting over,
imitated,
folks.
never duplicated, our last inductee, the fabulous Jackie Fargo.
You see Jerry Jarrett, Stan Lane, Steve Kern, Jerry Lawson is in the ring. This is the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. The fabulous Fargo Strut.
Jackie Fargo. Jackie, come on up here. Looking better every day. Congratulations. He's going to take them all on. Let's hear from our latest inductee and our honoree tonight, the fabulous Jackie Fargo. Jackie.
Thank you, Lance. I didn't think I'd ever be lost for words, but I sure as hell am tonight.
Close to your mouth. Close to your mouth. Hold that mic close. Go close.
I love you very much, and I thank you all so very much. You know, professional wrestling brought me Hall of Fame, and I'm very proud to have lived my life as a professional wrestler. Very lucky human being to have a wonderful family. Judy is with me tonight, my daughter Brandy and Charlotte, and my little Jennifer. I feel like I'm the luckiest man that ever lived to be a professional wrestler. And I owe it to you, to everyone in this arena, to my enemies, some of them friends. What a great, great honor to have been a professional wrestler. I'll never forget you because I'm not made that way. I'll always love you and thank you, and all my friends. I look around, I better get out of here. I'm fixing to cry. I love you very much, and God bless you. One last shot for the fans of Memphis, Tennessee.
I love that.
Comments,
Love it.
Pat Trammell.
I love it. Nobody like that guy. Nobody like that guy. When I think of where, for me, where Memphis wrestling begins, it begins with Jackie Fargo.
No doubt about it. Michael, we would like your comments, if you would, sir, about the fabulous Jackie Fargo.
I think I've said this on the program before. The only time I ever got nervous in doing a wrestling show was the first time Jackie Fargo came to Nashville, Tennessee, and I was the commentator. And I went back in the dressing room to introduce myself, and he got up, he puts that hand out, he hugs me, and he said, "Pally, keep doing what you're doing. You sound great." And that was it. I mean, that just broke the ice, and I wasn't nervous anymore. But and Pat, I echo what you said. I mean, he is. And Randy, earlier tonight, you asked how many people I had mentored. How many people did Jackie Fargo mentor in this business? I would say thousands.
Me
I would
too.
say thousands.
No doubt. No doubt. Absolutely no doubt about it.
Somewhere in America, if not tonight, tomorrow night. If not tomorrow night, Friday night, some young wrestler will do his best to copy the Fargo strut.
And nobody can do
Absolutely.
it like Jackie Fargo.
Nobody can do it like Jackie Fargo, and that's a great piece of business, and I am glad that we could share that with you today. Now, I want to go full screen with me real quick right now, and this is not a rant at all, because this idea was kind of based on a phone conversation that I had the other night with our buddy Pat Trammell, because I told him, and he missed the show last week, but we did the dark side of the ring and the dark side of Memphis wrestling, and he wasn't too enthused on that, of hearing the dark side of Memphis wrestling. And, you know, a lot of people like the scoops and like the dirt and all that sort of thing. But sometimes I think that we forget about the positive side of life, and we don't give people flowers while they're still alive, and we don't talk the positive, and it's easy, especially from a wrestling guy, just to be negative all the time and come out with negative things. The wrestling business is a tough business. It's a business where you travel on the road and gone from home. And a lot of times in wrestling, the relationships with the kids are not very good. The relationship between the husband or the wives are not very good. And there's a lot of stories out there, a bunch of stories out there of split homes, broken marriages, divorce, kids running away, just horrifying stuff. But we don't want to talk about that today. We want to talk about some of the happy stories and the great stories. And I wanted to talk about that today on this show. Before we get into the rest of the show, I want to talk about the happy times, the good stories, the feel good stories. I want to talk about Eddie Marlin and Norma Marlin. Norma and Eddie, the parents of Diane and Deborah. Of course, Jerry Jarrett was the son in law, Jeff Jarrett, the grandson in law, Randy West, the son in law. Eddie and Norma Marlin was married for 68 years old. 68 years old. I want to talk about Lance Russell, the great Lancer, Lance Russell. I want to talk about Lance and his lovely bride, Audrey Russell. When she passed away, they were 1 day away, 1 day away from being married 68 years. Amazing. A shout out to my great friend Dave Brown. Dave Brown has been married to Margaret for 55 years. 55 years. Jerry and Deborah Jarrett. They were just 2 weeks shy when Jerry passed away of being married 51 years together. And also a shout out to my favorite couple in the world, Randy Dandy, Randy West, the greatest video guy there's ever been, Randy West, and his lovely wife, my sister, Diane. They've been married for 50 years. These are so good stories, and we won't talk about the divorces. Also, I sent Dutch Mantel text, and he didn't text back because Dutch and Kathy's been married for a hell of a long time. Dutch didn't text me back, so I don't know how many years, but I would say probably a good 40 years. As Scott says, Lance was the best, and certainly was. Paul says Randy West was so good at those videos. Appreciate it very much. My best buddy, Randy Dandy, Randy West, he's a good husband. And Diane and Randy, as parents and grandparents, do a tremendous job. And I get the scoops about what's going on with them and the grandkids, great grandkids, everybody involved all the time. But that's a good part about the wrestling business, those strong marriages in a business that is hard to have a strong marriage on. How about that for a subject matter there, Michael St. John?
I'm glad you went there. I don't think enough credit is given to wrestling wives. And you're right. It's a tough. They're on the road, and sometimes you're on the road over, especially now with the boys that are out there now, and the girls. They're on the road for weeks at a time without going home. The beauty of the Memphis territory was the fact, like, for the most nights, you got to go back to your home base. And not a lot of territories had that luxury, more so then than now. But to bring the wives in and the roles, the supportive roles of the wives, hey, there's nothing better than a great wife. I'm a very lucky man because I have a great wife, and I'm telling you, and I'm sure every one of those people you just mentioned would say the same thing I'm about to say. I don't know where we would be without them.
Absolutely. And I have a question for Paul Neighbors. Paul, getting personal here, but you say your dad and Wanda married 49 years. Is Wanda still alive? Are they still married? Certainly being in Jonesboro, Arkansas, not around for what's going on there. And Paul Neighbors Jr. has a terrific wife as well. We need to put her over, and I'm going to put Pat's wife over because good God knows he never does it.
Come on, man.
Oh, Lord. I'm gonna, if it's okay with you, Randy, I don't know how to put it other than this. I'm gonna put my wife over.
All right.
And there she is at the Kentucky Derby. Excuse my palsy, but
beautiful.
There's Miss Melanie, and again, as she is the general manager, and not only in title, but because she does it. And in fact, she just blessed me out today for spending some money without letting her know about it. But she runs things, and like I said, and I'll echo it. Without those wrestlers would say the same thing. I know the folks that are watching and listening will say the same thing. A good partner, a good wife, in ladies' case, is a good husband. Boy, that makes life worthwhile.
Paul says he and his wife married 28 years old. This coming July, they met at the Louisville Gardens in Louisville, Kentucky. So certainly congratulations to them. About the lifestyle of being on the road. And Michael, I know that at times, sometimes I'd go 3 weeks in a row, 7 days a week. Always it was 6 days a week, but go. In your situation, what's your record of going to wrestling events in a row? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 7? I mean, as far as
4, actually 4. It was 4. And it was back when they were doing the Super Clash, and Jerry Jarrett was doing the deal with Vern Gagne, and I ended up Dallas, Memphis, Nashville, Louisville, Evansville, in a stint where I was literally on the road every night and stayed over in all those towns. I was lucky now, of course, in that I was living in Hendersonville at the time. So the Nashville show on that Saturday night, I was actually at home, but then had to leave out Sunday morning. And they did Louisville. If I recall correctly, we did Louisville on a Sunday night and then did Evansville the next night. But that would be my record. Now, as a programmer, as a broadcaster, and as a consultant, unfortunately, I at times would have to be out for a whole week, 8 days, maybe, visiting stations in different parts of the country. And we were living on the West Coast then, so it was a little tough to, you couldn't fly back every night. So it was a little tough being on the road. Being on the road there's an excitement about it, but it's also, there's a lot of, it's a tough thing to be on the road. It really is.
I think we will go in the subject and just briefly go over it again. And I've added some from last week. But before we go with this list, anything in response to the wives and that whole deal we talked about with those super long marriages, Pat?
Well, I don't. I travel a lot too for business, and people compliment my children a lot, which I appreciate, and I always say the same thing. Suzanne's done a great job raising them, and I've tried to be there, but it's a there's nothing, and we kid a lot, seeing if she was coming in with a thing, but she is the bedrock of our family. There's no question about that. I will tell you a story though.
Okay.
One time, the children, and this has to do more with me than her lack of attention to me. Uh, I was my phone rang one afternoon about 2 o'clock, and I've traveled. Generally it's in the southeast, but there was a period of time in my life where I traveled to the northeast a good bit. And anyway, my phone rings, and the children school when they were in elementary school was about a half a mile from my office in downtown Birmingham. And I answered the phone and I said, hello, and it was Suzanne. She said, I need you to pick the children up. And I said, can't do it. And she said, no, I need you to get them today. And I said, nope, Suzanne, sorry, can't do it. And so she proceeds to go through this. You're a half a mile away. I take them every morning. I get them every afternoon. I said, Suzanne, I can't get them. I'm not in town. She said, where are you? And I said, New York City. And she said, how long have you been there? And I said, 3 days.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. That's funny. That's a great story. By the way, just for the record, I was married my first time around to my ex for 40 years. 20 for her and 20 for me. So
yeah, I understand.
good story, Pat.
We have a lot of comments today and appreciate all of them. Hello, SK Lee. I guess we're going to deal a little bit about the dark side of Memphis wrestling, some of the sad deaths as we are talking about losing Owen Hart on this day in 1999. Who can forget that in 1976 the death of the great Sam Bass in 1976, July 1976, 41 years old. Then, shocking to everybody, somebody that I've told a lot of Tojo Yamamoto stories, a lot of fun stories, went up and down the road with him so many times. The death of Tojo Yamamoto on January the 6th, and that was in he passed away on February the 19th. Well, he died. He was born on January the 6th, 27. He passed away February the 19th, 1992. Very sad. Eddie Gilbert passed away February the 18th, 95, 33 years old. One of the saddest days ever. Just heartbreaking. Billy Travis passed away on November 23rd, 2002, at a very young 42 years old. Larry Latham, Moondog Spot, Larry Booker, passed away in a Moondog Battle Royal at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee in 2008 at 51 years old. Nature Boy Buddy Landell passed away in I think it was 2011, Adam, if you could clarify that for me, at 51 years old. My buddy, Brian Christopher Waller. I was at the hospital when Brian Christopher was taking off of life support, and one of the saddest situations ever, the death of Brian Waller in Memphis, Tennessee. Also, sad to all of us was the end of the USWA. A couple of Bill Dundee dark side stories. We talked about it last week with Michael St. John, the Randy Savage Bill Dundee fight in 1982. The 1995-1996 Bill Dundee firing by me after he pulled a knife on Whoopi D in the dressing room in Ripley, Tennessee. The way the wrestling business should be is the way it worked out. We brought Bill back after a few months, and they had a hot angle and did some great stuff. And there's no doubt about it. You have a couple things, the world of wrestling was certainly like the world of rock and roll. And there's no doubt about it. I'm thinking maybe Adam, they're putting Adam over on the private chat here, that Adam must have put something up there I didn't see. So whatever that is, Adam, can you put it back on so I can see what in the heck they're bragging on you for? Or somebody help me out. What are you saying? Oh, the date, June the 22nd, 2015. There you go. Adam's so good. As soon as we call for something, he always does. You live life like a rock star, like a cowboy, like a truck driver, like a rodeo clown in the wrestling business. And I'll be quite honest, a lot of sex, a lot of drugs, and a lot of living life as a rock star. And there's family life against wrestling life, and there's a lot of failed families, failed marriages, a ton of them, and we're not going to mention those. And there's also families absolutely torn apart due to money and business and being on the road and doing whatever you do on the road. Another reason, but there's been absolutely group. So many families torn apart. At the same time, there's success stories, and Eddie Marlin was a great father. There's no doubt in the world, and there's so many people. Certainly, a great grandfather right there is Michael St. John. Hey, buddy. Hi.
Say hello. He's saying hi to you.
Hey,
He's talking, buddy.
hey,
As
Josh.
there's Randy and Pat Trammell and all those people are watching over there. How about that? Take your fingers out of your mouth so they can see what a good looking guy this you are. This is my buddy. This is Joshua.
Yeah,
Hey,
pull him up a
Joshua.
little bit. There we can see all of him now.
There
Hey,
you go.
Joshua.
So he's Papa's boy. Who do you love best?
Papa.
There you
All
go.
right.
Right on target. I'll tell you, when you talk about family and you talk about wives, you talk about children, there's a great thing about children, and it's called grandchildren. And Pat, I don't know if you're there yet, but I'll tell you, when it happens, it does change your life.
Hell yeah.
Heck yeah. He said. All
That's
right.
all right.
I'm going to let you go so I can do my business. Okay. Okay.
Bye-bye, Joshua.
Bye-bye,
Bye-bye.
Joshua.
Bye.
All right. He's a cute son of a gun. We'll do one more right now, and I don't know how I'm going to word this. I'm going to be completely honest with the audience. And some things, you have to look back at your life, and certainly we all think about the good and the stuff that we're proud of, that sort of thing. It's not so easy when you look back and you look at the mistakes. Now, the drinking and the drugs and all that was a situation that a lot of people not in the wrestling business, a lot of people in the world do, and the great majority smartens up and gets over it. And there's so many success stories, and I'm one of the success stories as well. And we're going to talk about that. And again, I have not said this publicly, and I'm trying to get the courage to say this where it'll make sense and it won't be rambling. Sometimes in any business, it doesn't have to be the wrestling business. It doesn't have to do, but you have to make sacrifices. Michael, I'm sure you made sacrifices that you at times chose your job over family responsibilities. I'm not speaking for you. Most people are like that. And Pat, I would probably guess the same thing for you. And Ahmad Jones is in the house. He's saying bye to Joshua, and he's saying hello to us, and I appreciate that. Again, that I just want to talk about right now this is more like a testimonial, and it's true. And I can tell you that I have no regrets. A long time ago, a long time ago, I wasn't the boy next door. I wasn't the normal person because a long time ago, I knew what I wanted to be when I was 10 years old. And I wrote a book about it. Adam will post that you can check out, the Living the Dream, the Randy Hill story. We're plugging Scott's book. We might as well plug mine if you want to scan that and order that at Amazon and check that out. If you would do that, I'd appreciate it very much. And I was able to live my dream. And I absolutely, it was meant to be, and I have absolutely no regret. And it's something that people just don't understand because the decision that I made, I chose wrestling, and I chose my career, and I chose being not an alcoholic, but a workaholic certainly, because after wrestling went away in 2001, then it was still time for me because then I was born in 1961 and wrestling went away for me in 2001. It's been all over, but I already had chose that lifestyle, and I already was comfortable what I do. I'm 62 years old, and it's just me and my friends, Adam and Pat and Michael, Chris, and all these guys right there. But I chose at a young age to concentrate on my career and not pursuing a family and not having kids. We'll never have grandkids. The closest things I certainly have is nieces and nephews. But I chose that as well. But here's the thing is this is not a pity party. And a lot of people don't understand. 62 years old, not married, no kids, blah, blah, blah. He must be a miserable son of a bitch. And I'm not a miserable son of a bitch because I realize the life I lead is not a normal life, but it's my life. And it's something that I've developed so many stories and so many experiences, so many great friends like Pat, and like Michael, and like Adam, and like all you guys. It just is what it is, and people are different. So at this point, just obviously made the choice, 62 years old. Uh, I don't think a daggum woman or kids or anybody else could put up with my ass because I'm used to being a loner and must be in by myself, and I don't think I can put up with them. I am honestly 100% happy with my life, 100%. So we went through that list and that testimonial at the end, just thoughts from Pat Trammell of those comments. And certainly, I think, let me look at the time. We have about 48 minutes left in the show, and we're going to be out of here on time. Your comment to that long winded list?
Well, the list, the response to what you said, or to the list of
The whole thing, the whole little segment.
well, I mean, wrestling is not for everybody, and the industry is not for everybody. If you wrestle, if you are in the in management as you were, but nothing's built for everybody. And I've kind of had, I've kind of had to come to some peace about kind of the choices I've made, and what I know is, and again, primarily because of the job their mother has done, is my children didn't miss a thing. I missed a lot, but they're no worse for the wear. And I regret, of course, you know, having to travel so much, but I don't think I missed a lot important. But we all make life choices, and Randy, I mean, regarding you, I can't imagine you being anything else or having any other career at all than what you had. I mean, you were born to be in the wrestling business. It comes out of every pore of your being. And I think it's a great thing that, and here's somebody else who spent a lifetime in the wrestling business. Our pal Bo James just showed up.
Hey, Bo.
I don't think you would have been happy doing anything else. And I think it's great you did. And I'm thankful for my friendship with somebody who has your experiences and Michael's experiences.
I would just like to throw in real quick that since 2001, I've been on the outside looking in with the wrestling business. I had no dream to ever go to WCW, to go to WWF, to do that, flying every day, no desire to do that. I've been out of the wrestling business since 2001 and had successful careers as a partner in the restaurant business, general manager jobs in the wrestling business, a hell of a run with Co-Brothers. I've done a lot of stuff, and I love Uber because I can cut promos all the time on Uber drives, and there's several things I like. I like to drive. I like people, talking to people, and I like money. It's all good. Your response to my little list of the dark side of wrestling and my testimonial, Michael St. John, as we go full screen.
Well, I don't think anybody can say it better than Pat just said it. I think Pat is absolutely on the money. There was a great quote from Scott earlier in Scott's art. Life is too short not to go for your dreams. And I've lived that. And I think everyone should live that. So, hey, if it's what you make of life. And, I can remember sitting on the shore at Oxnard, California, in a little restaurant back in 1995. And I'd made the decision to leave a very lucrative job, an easy job, living on the coast, work hard. Well, I wouldn't even say hard, work long, 2.5 days a week. And the rest of it was time on my own. But I missed being in the broadcast business. I missed the day-to-day of radio. I missed writing those promos. I missed dealing with those people. I missed everything about it. And with my family, and I had a son that was graduating in the next 6 months, and my daughter was in high school as a sophomore, and we sat there and I told him, I said, you've seen me the last 4 years. I just am not what I want to be. And I decided to leave the nest. Unfortunately, it ended up in a divorce a year after, but the kids say, Dad, you gotta follow your dream. You gotta live your life. And I have no regrets, but I will say, Randy, that's the main thing. If you've lived a life that you've enjoyed, if you have no regrets, then you're a blessed man. And I got to echo exactly what Pat said and tell you gotta follow that dream, whatever that dream is.
One thing that I talked about, and last week we dealt with it on one of these programs, because on the 16th day of the month was the 43rd anniversary of me, ORH, graduating for high school. And I posted a lot of cool stuff and a lot of memories up there. And one of the things I did, I went to YouTube and I found a song that Frank Sinatra did, but the artist that I got was the song by Elvis Presley, the performance by Elvis Presley. And I love the words to this song, Pat and Michael. Regrets, I have a few, but so few to mention. And that's true. And that's how I feel. I do have regrets, but there's so few to mention. And I did it my way. And my way is not necessarily your way, and your way is not necessarily my way. And we're talking heavier and deeper subjects, but that's what we built a relationship with each other and Adam and our audience, that we can talk, as Bo James says. And let's put that up there. His comment, he said, I chase and caught my dreams. I miss so much with my older nieces and nephews. I ain't missing nothing with Waylon and Aubrey. And he does such a great job like that. Just a super job as well. We are going to, as I look at the clock, and we still have almost 40 minutes left, and I think Michael has a comment before we get into our next video.
I can't help but do this. I think Bo James, I love Bo James. He's a great guy. And I follow him on Twitter and I love what Little Waylon. But let me tell you, if I were to ask how Bo James is doing with his health, am I going to get ripped and knocked and somebody going to stooge off on me that I'm saying something bad about my friend Bo James?
No, not at all. And that happened, Bo. You didn't see the thing. I'll repeat that. We did a simple thing. We showed a picture of Jerry Lawler, recent picture of Lawler, Dundee, and the buddy of Dundee, Rex Luthor, and then somebody, and Bo, you can figure out probably who I think that did it, called Donna, Lawler or Dundee's wife, and said we were talking out of school. One of the things that was said, Michael did ask me, does Bill still have hiccups? There was absolutely nothing at all negative, because we all love Bill Dundee, without a doubt in the world. So Bo, Michael St. John, Pat Trammell, Adam Dunn, and Randy Hales wants to know, how's your health, buddy? How's your health? Write it, and Adam will put it on the screen. How about that for covering that?
I love that, because in reality, we do care. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
the real truth about this show. Pat, yourself, myself, we care about these people that we know and love, and we don't want anything bad to happen to them. And if they have some tough spot in their life, we want to be there for them as friends. And I think most of the people that watch and listen to this show know that that's what we're all about.
Let's go back to the year 2017, because we stated earlier, I mentioned being a little offended other people using Monday Night Memories, because that's something's, I don't have kids. That's like a kid to me. Birthing the deal and neutering and taking care of it all my life. Monday Night Memories was the biggest crowd in Memphis at the Mid-South Coliseum in about 6 years. It was financially successful. It was in the ring successful. As an event, it was successful. It was great. The next year we did, the plan was to do a Monday Night Memory every year. We did 94 and 95. We showed the Jackie Fargo induction 95. Was going to do it every year in Memphis. Then that's when the Monday Night Wars got hot. That's when the Mid-South Coliseum became hard to draw on Monday. We tried to switch dates to a Wednesday, to a Saturday. It didn't work. I couldn't gamble, as being the person at the time, not only the booker, the general manager of the company, making basically all the decisions. I couldn't justify spending the money as a risk. I would do it in Louisville. I would do it in Nashville. Memphis at that point was the Coliseum in its dying days, and we were going certainly away with that, and it was just changing. And we'll get caught up in a minute. So hold those comments, Adam, and we will go ahead and I'll respond to them. But so after the year 19 that we were talking about, 1995, another Hall of Fame celebration. The idea, because I'd never dreamed Memphis Wrestling would go away, but it did. So we never did another one. To 2017, as a team, we inducted at Jerry Lawler's Hall of Fame, Dave Brown and Lance Russell. And then 2 weeks later, because Jerry Lawler couldn't make it that particular event, and it was the only weekend Lance would be in Memphis, so we had to do two. Then we did a big, probably the most inductees we ever seen. This is a highlight video just showing you some of the inductees that we did have. Last week, Michael, Pat missed it. We saw the promo Dave Brown did plugging the event, and these are the highlights. Now, we can't talk over it because this is in the video clips section, but we'll go ahead, go back to 2017, Lawler's Bar and Grill. Watch this. There you go. Thoughts, Pat Trammell. Thoughts, Pat.
Very, very classy and a very, very, very special. I love that video, and I just, you can look when the camera comes to Coco's eyes and the Gilbert's eyes and and Dundee's eyes. You can see what it means to them. You can see the emotion in their face. Very, very special.
Your thoughts on the video, Michael? I'm assuming you have never seen that before.
Actually, I have not seen the video. I have seen the DVD of the induction, and I got to tell you, you talk about a class. Baseball or football doesn't hold a candle to that Hall of Fame class that went in that year in 2017. That's super, and to see them all together. The sad part about that is we've lost, since that video was made, we've lost Bobby Eaton, and to see Bobby and Cornette up there, and I guess Dennis couldn't make it, but Dennis has had some health problems as well. And that's just, boy, that's a Hall of Famers, Hall of Fame group of people.
One of the things I want to do in the last about 30 minutes, 29, 30 minutes left in the show, we want to review the dark side of the ring that's been seen on Vice TV. And coming up real soon in May, the new season, and we have some of the episodes to tell you about for that. But real quick responses from both guys as we talk about the debut season 2019. We'll take a look at all the seasons. Season number 1, the story that was called The Match Made in Heaven. Randy Macho Man Savage and Miss Elizabeth Savage died in 2011 at age 58 years old. Elizabeth died in 2003 at age 42. They were married in 84. They were divorced in 92. And you heard the stories of how protective Randy was. You've heard all that stories since the broadcast of this Dark Side of the Ring. Unfortunately, we lost Leaping Lanny Poffo. The Match Made in Heaven, the Randy Savage and Elizabeth story. Your brief thoughts, Pat.
Sad all the way around. I mean, the thing that Randy died of a heart attack, and obviously, not obviously, but I mean, I don't think there's a lot of. I don't think anybody's surprised because he was part of that steroid generation, but Elizabeth just went down the wrong path, and I enjoy, Lex Luger's gotten his life straightened out, and I'm thankful for that. Although he's got chronic health issues, he'll fight the rest of his life. But I mean, those two just spiraled down together, and it cost her her life, and it's just a very, very sad thing.
Quick thoughts on the Randy Savage Elizabeth Match Made in Heaven, Michael St. John.
I echo what Pat said. I have heard, and I don't know if anybody else has, but I have heard that there is a movie in the making regarding Randy and Elizabeth, and I think the feature is going to be on her with the whole life story or whatever. And I heard that it's been about a year ago, and I haven't heard any more since first hearing that. But you talk about a movie that I think a lot of people would be very, very interested in seeing and hearing the whole story from her humble beginnings and how they met in Kentucky when Randy was doing the independent scene with his dad, Angelo, and with Lanny up until, the terrible loss of Elizabeth in a very tragic situation. But I have heard that there is a movie in the making on that. I don't know if it's a movie for video or a movie for TV, Hallmark or something like that, or the Man-Hating Channel or whatever, or if it's a legitimate on-screen movie.
The next one we want to talk about, we won't spend a lot of time because you can check podcasts and it's all over the place. The controversial Montreal screw job finish between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart on November the 9th, 1997, known famously as the Montreal screw job finish. Your thoughts, Pat Trammell?
It's been done to death, and I don't know if anybody's really got any complete closure on the thing. I was sitting here thinking when I read that, maybe it's a work on all of us.
It could be, and I really don't know. Your thoughts on that? The Montreal screw job, Mister Michael St. John.
I think within the wrestling business, within the marks, if you would, of the wrestling business, it's a bigger thing than what it is in the whole history of wrestling, is as far as the way fans and people look at it. Yeah, it was an event, and yeah, Bret Hart got really PO'd about it, but trust me, Randy, you know this as well as I do, and Pat, when you have an employee that's on his way out the door and he's already made up his mind to go to the competition, you don't let the screen door hit him in the butt. And I think that I think it was made up and has since had a life of its own that was much bigger than what exactly happened.
No doubt about it. Also, we go back to June the 18th, and that is wrong on that. The date was July the 17th, 1988. The killing of Bruiser Brody in Puerto Rico. Pat.
I thought that episode of Dark Side of the Ring has probably been the best one, and I thought Dutch gave extremely good insight on that. And that's I'm glad. I'm not glad that Frank Goodrich is not with us, but I was thankful for that episode because you could see, he was a character in the ring. I mean, his persona was somebody that was just kind of out there, but by all accounts, and it brought it out in that episode. He was a really good guy and a devoted husband and father, and it's just a very, very tragic thing.
Your thoughts on the killing of Bruiser Brody in 1988 in July, Michael St. John?
Well, Dutch Mantell told the story because Dutch Mantell was there. He did not
Yes.
actually witness the act, but he was he was in the dressing room and then outside the dressing room. So I don't think you could have had a better person on there for it. And I think Dutch did a great job, not only on that, but all the shows he did with Dark Side. But the one thing, and I've said this before, of all the people I've ever had to interview or work with in the professional wrestling business, the only person that really ever intimidated me was Brody. And
Really?
he was, with an announcer and somebody, especially he had never worked with before, he was pretty stiff and I was pretty intimidated. So, but I think I agree with Pat. I think if not the best, I think it's one of the best episodes that Dark Side has done so far.
He was stabbed to death by the Booker, the Invader, Jose Gonzalez. Number 4, man, you can go and go and go on this one. And I will try to recap it as quick as I can, then we'll go with Pat and Michael. The tragedy of the Von Erichs, and man, there was a lot. First of all, Jack Jr. was electrocuted at a very young age, and that was the first tragedy of the Von Erich brothers. Then David passed away in Japan on February the 4th. He was 25 years old in 1984. The second one that was a tragedy was Mike Von Erich, April the 12th, 1987. He had a toxic shock. He wasn't himself. He committed suicide on April the 12th, 1987, at 23 years old. And a very, very sad situation. Chris Von Erich passed away at age 21 years old. He shot himself in the head at 21 on September the 12th, 1991. And then Kerry Von Erich, who had a felony drug possession, he ended up shooting himself at on February the 18th, 1993, at age 33. We have about 20 minutes left in the show. The tragedy of the Von Erichs, Pat.
I don't mean to minimize it, but it's just that it's hard to even fathom. I feel sorry for the parents so much, but it's, I think Memphis, the families who spent a lot of time and a lot of years in Memphis. The Gilberts, the Marlins, the Jarretts. I think they were just fortunate. They dodged a lot of bullets. You know, the Von Erichs were a wealthy, successful, famous family, and you know, it's just it's an unspeakable tragedy, and that you know they just kept the tragedies kept coming.
Michael,
I agree with Pat. As a family, do you deal with that? And nobody ever talks about the mom. And I mean, to lose all those,
Doris,
yes,
Doris, yes.
there's always been the focus has always been on Jack and his family and the boys, but nobody ever talks about the mom. And my gosh, what hmm,
Yeah.
it's the unfathomable word unfathomable. I think absolutely hits the bill there.
We're going to just run through some of these others and a couple of that I want to just us discuss real quick. On season one, the mysterious death of Gino Hernandez, who died at 28 years old in 1986. Also, the story of Mary Lillian Ellison, the fabulous Moolah, who lived to a age of 84 years old. Then in season two, they led off with part one, part two of the murder suicide, the Chris Benoit story. Certainly, this happened on June the 24th of 2007. We'll start with you, Michael, first. The Chris Benoit, Nancy Woman murder suicide. Sad, sad, sad.
I don't know what else we could add to that. It was very, very sad and very, very. That I never forget hearing that, and I heard it on my radio station and hearing what had happened in breaking news. I'm from Fox. It was, oh God, it was incredible. Of all those that you mentioned, the one that I really had interest in was the fabulous Moolah, and how I never knew. I knew that she booked a lot of the girls and the girl wrestlers across the country with the promoters, but I never knew the stronghold she had on women's wrestling. I knew she was a champion. She could work. I mean, she was an amazing worker. And I always had fun talking with her because she had such that southern drawl and she was just the sweetest lady in the world. But I never knew that she had such a grip on women's wrestling until that show came out.
Some of the accusations about her was financial and sexual exploitation, and she was flat out accused of being a pimp. Your comments on the last few things we mentioned, Pat.
You know, Moolah, you know, I obviously didn't never knew her like Michael did. That I know that women's wrestling was a lot different animal back in the '60s and '70s, and you know, I know that it was more or less a once a 6 week, and I may be wrong there, but you know, every now and then Carney act, and you know, as somebody with a daughter, you know, I know that in decades prior, women were not treated with the respect that they were deserved, and I'm thankful those times have changed.
You know, one thing I'll add to that, just real quick, if I may, there's a lot of women wrestlers that came through the Gulis's territory, and of course Jerry Jarrett booked them as well. I never ran across one that was nothing but upboard, nothing but above board. Never did. I will say this, Pat, calling it Carney Sideshow would have probably got you shot by Cora Combs, but other than that, I totally agree.
I know that, and I want to make a comment about the Chris Benoit thing. Um, you know, Bo knew both of them, and he doesn't understand any of it, and I don't understand any of it either.
Sad, sad situation. Third season was they covered a two-parter in the Brian Pillman story. Did a violent Nick Gage, whoever that is, collision in Korea, the WCW New Japan thing. They did a show on becoming the Ultimate Warrior. And man, a dark side of Mid-South Wrestling. Go ahead, Adam, and put up that Mid-South Wrestling graphic that we have that just gives you a look at some of the the stars that you see, a great roster of people throughout the years on my second favorite wrestling promotion. You see the Rock and Roll and the Midnight Express and Cowboy Bill and Jim Ross, and you see Junkyard Dog and Mr. Wrestling and Hacksaw and Dr. Death, and you see the Rock and Roll and Ted DiBiase and Kamala and so many different things. They did a dark side of the ring, and I would say that is probably with without a doubt in the world is the absolute sickest story there was that they covered of Grizzly Smith, and certainly his kids had to live with that. There's no doubt about it. Grizzly died in 2010 at age 77 years old. That story, Michael, is just absolutely horrifying. Horrifying.
Of all the shows they did, that was the one that got me in the gut. That just turned my stomach because of the accusations. It was just, and I never knew. I didn't know Grizzly Smith. I knew of his name and by name only, but to hear that story and to see that story put on on television, that was sickening to me.
Pat, your thoughts on Grizzly Smith?
It's just it's just something, and I just don't understand that. I obviously the kids, all of them were not afraid to stand up, and they all corroborated each other's story. It must have been a horrible way to grow up.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. That's all those that we'll talk about. And this next season, I know they're leading off with Chris Candido and Sonny, and that should be interesting. And there's others as well coming up. And believe it or not, we're going to get out of here early today. And instead
Well,
of first,
excuse me, but I'm sorry to interrupt, but one of them you missed was about New Jack. I thought the
yes,
New Jack story was extremely informative. And the thing that shocked me about that one is I knew that Gypsy Joe had been involved in a situation where at 82 years old or 81 years old, he pretty much got sort of a dose of what he was in his earlier years, but I never had seen the video. And watching the video of New Jack and Gypsy Joe, I mean, and we lost New Jack a year or so ago horribly because I think he had started to try to turn around his life. And boy, that was a sicko too.
there's no doubt about it. Instead of doing a first take that we've always done, we'll do the final take of the show, and we'll remind everybody we have Talking Memphis Wrestling next Tuesday night, and we will have Scott's Art with us, and we will talk about Mayhem in Memphis, and he will be here to plug his book and to talk about the process and anything else that he might want to talk about. That's Talking Memphis Wrestling. The other thing I want to tell you, I will not be on the front row with Bud Rowe tomorrow. I am having my left eye. The cataract will be removed at 11:30 in the morning. I will be doing that. Pat, thoughts about today's show and your final thoughts for today on Talking Memphis Wrestling?
Well, a couple of thoughts. One, you will be in, and I know our Talking Memphis Wrestling family's thoughts and prayers tomorrow for the second successful cataract surgery. So, thinking about you there and hoping for the best. And I know it's going to go fine. It's good to see everybody today. Bo, great to see you. I think Michael asked you what you were doing. I know you've been riding those mountain towns and whooping them again, Josie, and I love to see it. But just like every time I get off here, and we've talked about some emotional things tonight, but some good things too, and some hopeful things too. And I just want to thank everybody because this part of my week means so much to me. It's so great to see all my friends and to be with you, Randy and Adam, you and Michael and Chris when he's with us. And it's just you're very special to me, and I appreciate it.
If we could, and if we can't do video, we won't do video. But if we can do video, want to do video. The guy that makes this show goes as far as the wonderful job he does production. A final take today from the producer of this show that fussed at me and kicked me off my own damn show. Anyway, final thoughts about this show and the future show and what the hell else you want to say. Final take from Adam Dunn.
No, so just another good show. We got a lot of good topics in there. I really enjoyed that, and of course, since I'm in the Eastern time zone, I really enjoy when we get out of here on time. So that's also good for me as well. But like everyone else on this show has said, I always enjoy being here. I don't really come on screen on this often, but feel like I've got 3 subject matter experts, usually 4, that know the CWA, USWA, if we're talking Birmingham, Chattanooga, whatever, everybody on this panel, lived that stuff firsthand. I'm just honored to be able to produce it and bring it to everyone. And then, of course, you can always catch me on Monday nights with Randy. But it's always good being here and being amongst friends and talking about, Memphis wrestling. That's something that we all enjoy, and it's just always a great time every week.
Thanks for producing the show. And now the final take as we're getting out of here early, unless Michael does the 15-minute final take, which that wouldn't exactly shock me. But anyway, final words from Michael St. John.
Well, first and foremost, brother, our prayers with you and Godspeed tomorrow on your second eye, being relieved of his cataract, and I'm sure you're in good hands. And next week you'll be able to see Pat and I and Adam in stereo. So that's something positive. I thought tonight's show was deep in that we touched on some things and talked about some topics and did some things that aren't typical of what we do on Talking Memphis Wrestling. But at times, it's almost a welcome change that we do sort of lay it out on the line. And I feel like that we did that tonight. But again, I appreciate you, Randy. I love you as a friend and a brother, and the same with Pat and Adam, and I miss Coach, and we've sort of become sort of the group here that we've sort of bonded as this show is going on as friends, and I love that part of this. I did have one of our listeners ask me, actually it was a week ago Friday, Chuck Ellis, who watches this show. He is a retired or listens to this show, is a retired Alabama State trooper, is a very dear friend of mine. And he said, you guys need to do a live event somewhere where you guys are on a panel. Maybe it's a part of one of the, big pay-per-views or whatever, where you guys would meet and talk and answer questions of a live audience. And Conrad Thompson, if you're watching or any of your folks are watching, personally, I don't think that's a bad idea.
And Conrad's not going to do nothing that he's not on, I guarantee you.
He can moderate it. It could be the 4 of us and he can moderate it.
There you go.
All right. Anything else, Michael?
That's it. Thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity to do this each and every week. I really look forward to it, and Godspeed, everybody. Thank you all for all the comments, and thank you so much for watching and listening in.
Now, who was that dude that Adam blocked? What was his name? Josh?
Joey,
I hope you have horrifying dreams tonight. Have a miserable, miserable, miserable night, and obviously you're already having a miserable life. Certainly coming in here, watching the show free, and then all of a sudden you don't like the opening. Basically, this has been at points during the show, certainly we've got as good a response as we've ever gotten. The numbers have been good. So the hell with you, Joey. The hell with you. I'll appreciate it. I will not be on the front row tomorrow. I will be here next Monday on the Power Hour. We will be here next Tuesday night. Certainly the Power Hour. Can't wait for that. Then next Tuesday night, talking Memphis Wrestling with Scott will be with us today or next week. Can't wait for that. check the archives out at Randy Hills at youtube.com/ and check out my social media on Facebook and Twitter. Pat and Michael on Twitter as well. Adam is on Facebook. And then tomorrow night, my friend Greg Wayne always come at you with a great show, and it's original. He's not swiping my Talking Memphis Wrestling. He's not swiping my Monday Night Memories. It's Wayne's World. I should change this to Randy's World. Just get Greg to cuss me. Hey, this has been a lot of fun, and I can tell you right now, we are signed. This is shocking to the world. At 8:52, we are signing off. For Adam Dunn, Pat Trammell, Michael St. John, I am Randy Hills, and we're saying so long and bye-bye, everybody. Good night.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hills and special guests.